You know, sometimes I'll make a whole video and then I film it, I edit it, I upload it to YouTube, and then a couple hours later I'll realize, oops, there's something really important I wanted to say in that video and I totally forgot to. So I thought maybe I will give you a little hodgepodge of topics. So here we go. Okay, so sometimes I think I got this really great idea, I'm gonna make a video about it, and then what I do is I will make like a to-do list, but I put it on my phone in my notes app, and I will just kind of like randomly list out things I want to talk about. And so that's what I would like to do today, is kind of go through the list. Okay, so one of the first video ideas I had was to do a video about some of my favorite things. Now, clearly this is not an original idea because if y'all remember Oprah's favorite things. So the reason I'm making this video is hopefully to give you an idea of what you can make a video about on your own, so that you could talk about what some of your favorite things are. And when I say favorite things, I mean things that I've had maybe purchase and turned out to be a really good investment because I've had it for years, or that I use it almost daily. And I'm sure there's plenty of things I've purchased that turned out to be a ripoff, and I could probably make a video about those too. But let me go over some of the things that are things that I use and have purchased and turned out to work for me in the long term. Now, first of all, this is a pair of nail clippers, and I've actually had this exact pair since I was in the 7th grade. And so I don't remember how I even got them. I probably got them as a gift or something from a parent, because I don't think I would have gone and purchased a pair of nail clippers at that age. But I have had these all these years and I use them. I usually clean them with alcohol, and they are definitely something that is an investment piece because I do use them to trim my nails. Now, I'll say another thing. These are the scissors I have. You know, you don't need to have some designer pattern scissors, but I have had these, and obviously I use them almost every single day. It seems like almost every single day I've had to cut something for some reason, especially when purchasing, like when you purchase prepackaged food, which by the way is probably not healthy, but I do sometimes get the bagged salads, the salads that come with like the dressing and the croutons and everything, and it's all in a bag, and each one of those things comes in like an individual bag. And yeah, you can try to like rip it with your hands, but I usually just use my pair of scissors. So almost daily I'm using these for food I eat, or I do clean them in between use because that's important too. Okay, so another thing worth mentioning of something that I have always felt was a good investment is having a decent cell phone. So I use an iPhone. It's not the newest model, you know. I've used iPhones for years, and you know, I usually have them for several years at a time before I upgrade to a new model. But I use my phone for pretty much everything because I use it to, you know, text, make phone calls, check my email, go on the internet, watch YouTube. I do it all on my phone. So as far as like not having a television or not having a computer, I can do it all on a phone. Now, I do also have a laptop. It's kind of an old laptop, but I do most everything on my iPhone. This next item is a folding red wagon. I purchased this one for $50 at Walmart several years ago. I have seen them for sale other places, selling for well over $100 now. It folds up and you can easily store it in your car or a storage unit, and it helps with packing and unpacking and traveling and carrying heavy loads. Okay, this next item, it's actually made of metal. I purchased it at a dollar store. And in case you're wondering what it is a phone holder. So I'm gonna put this here. Let's just put this like that for now. So I use this, and basically when I'm about to go to sleep, I usually, you know, play some video on YouTube and just put this right next to my bed, and it props the phone up so I can watch a movie. And it is something I've had for years. Like I said, it's made of metal. I bought it at a dollar store, and it has come in handy. Something I definitely use every single day. Okay, so maybe this will inspire you to make your own video about some of the favorite things you use. I will tell you one side note. I don't really have a video of it here, but I do like to always keep a crock pot. And I know if you're living in a car, you probably can't use a crock pot to cook your food. But when I lived in a travel trailer and I did have access to power to electric hookups, I think a crock pot is something that's very easy to cook with. And for the most part, it's all in one pot, so you can just clean it fairly easily. But also I've been where, you know, I didn't have access to actually cook any food. So I would be able to plug it in at work if my work had a break room or a kitchen or something like that for employees to use. And then that way I could get something cooking when I first got there in the morning. And then by lunchtime, I would have something to eat. Whether it be just throwing like a piece of chicken in the crock pot or some sort of beef or steak or something like that. Because it can cook in a couple of hours, and then I could easily clean it up right in the break room at work. And just something to keep in mind if you happen to find yourself in that situation where you don't really have a way to cook, and if you have access to a crock pot. They come in all different sizes, so you could get one of the very small ones to use, and it works great. Let's try answering some random questions, and that is, anytime I've gone on a job interview in Seattle, Washington, usually at the end of the interview, they'll say, do you have any questions for us? And the question I always ask is, I started to film something and then a train came by, and so now all you can hear is like a train horn blowing in the background. Stuff like this always happens. So I was saying, one of the questions that they always ask at the end of the interview is, what questions do you have for us? And I always ask the same question, and is, does this job offer parking? And majority of jobs in downtown Seattle do not offer any sort of parking. And so I'm not gonna say you're screwed, but you're gonna have to really figure out how to get to your job. Yeah, you can take the bus, you could do Uber, maybe you could walk there. If they don't offer parking, I mean, that leaves you with having to pay to park, and it is very expensive. So this is more, keep that in mind for people looking for jobs in Seattle. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, so another thing I mentioned in the past about trying to find parking in Seattle is sometimes, obviously, if you live in Seattle, you can apply for a parking pass for your neighborhood. But I have noticed, and this is something that I don't really know what the requirements are to do this, but I have before had to do this, is that you can get a temporary parking pass in Seattle. It's usually like a 3-day parking pass. And the reason for this is if you happen to be someone who's like a plumber and you're going to be doing service on someone's house and you need to be able to park by their house, you can go and you can apply for these 3-day parking permits. Now, like I said, this is Seattle only. You might want to look into it, see what's available for your area, see what the requirements are. But I know it's for 3 days only. They won't tow you. They won't give you a ticket or anything. And you don't necessarily have to tell them, I need this because I'm doing plumbing work, or I need this because I'm an electrician. You just go and you apply for it, and it's only good for 3 days. And it's just a temporary parking pass to park on the street in certain neighborhoods that require a parking pass, which is typically a sticker you put on your car. But when you get the temporary pass, it's just a piece of paper that you put in your dashboard. Okay, also in a previous video, I was talking about how to kind of like get rid of your stuff, sell your stuff. One thing I probably left out of that video is how sometimes you can sell your stuff at, you might have a local store that does consignment, or you can take your clothes there, or maybe even sell your books at a local bookstore. And either they'll pay you money on the spot, or they'll hold it a while, and then if it doesn't sell in a certain amount of time, then you'd have to come and get your stuff back. I think every store is different, it has their own policies, so of course you'll have to look into what's available in your area. But I am just gonna tell you on my personal experience, I have tried to take like a whole huge cardboard box full of books to sell it to a bookstore that does used books, and that they have a sign that says we buy books. Well, they were probably gonna offer me like 15 cents per paperback or like 30 cents per hardback book. So you are definitely not going to become a millionaire that way, but it is something that if you want to get rid of your books, you might want to consider it. Also, when it comes to places that you want to sell some of your clothes, I've noticed some places they will only take name brand clothes, and I don't really wear name brand clothes. You know, I go to discount stores, right? Or I go to secondhand stores. So if you're hoping to like make tons of money selling all your stuff just because your stuff happens to be fashionable and unique, if it's not name brand, they're usually not going to buy it. And of course, they're looking for things that are like a brand new pair of shoes still in the box. They're looking for like designer handbags. And honestly, they probably will not pay you very much. They'll pay you like $3 or something like that, even if it is name brand designer, brand new with the tags and everything. Some of these places, they're just like complete cheapskates. Sorry to say it. you would be better off trying to sell it on your own at a website. There's many websites out there where you can sell used clothes. And of course, follow the policy and everything. Yeah, you usually have to take a photo of the item and then post it online. The item should at least be cleaned and that sort of thing. But of course, look into it, see what's available, do your own research, etc. Topic I want to talk about is emergency housing services. And for me, I can only speak on what experience I've had here in Seattle, but I'm sure they probably have these programs in other cities as well. Now, my situation, when you go, I was living in my car. That was the only place I had to live. Okay, so when you go to apply for emergency housing services, they will say that you basically need to have nowhere to live. If you have a car, technically you have somewhere to live. So you might not qualify for any sort of emergency housing services. So this is like really programs for people like living on the streets, and they actually offer tiny houses. They might put you on a list for some apartments. So there are services out there, but to qualify and to go, like, you have to say, I have nowhere to live. I live on the streets. They'll ask, where did you sleep last night? I mean, yeah, you could lie, but if you technically like slept in a hotel last night, and maybe like you've been like living on the streets, and then maybe you saved up some money to get a hotel room, the fact that you had a hotel room, motel room, whatever you want to call it, well, you don't qualify anymore. So you of course never want to tell them that you stayed in a cheap $30 motel, because they'll say you don't qualify, you don't need housing services. Clearly you were able to find a motel. And so this is why you have to be like totally like destitute, desperate, and have nowhere to go. You're sleeping on the street. And because when you go to apply for these programs, like if you say, oh, well, I have nowhere to live, so I slept on my friend's floor for the night, well, then they'll say you had a place to live. You're not homeless. You were able to find a place to sleep for the night. So you don't qualify. So please keep this in mind. If you do get to a point where you have to apply for emergency housing services, this is how it was for me in Seattle. And so even though I kind of went through the program to try to find housing, what they consider to qualify you, you may be easily disqualified. In my videos before, I've also talked about if you have stuff that you want to get rid of, like old clothes that doesn't fit you, you can just donate it to Goodwill. And a lot of people think like, well, what does Goodwill do? And I'm going to tell you what Goodwill does, because they actually do some stuff. And your typical Goodwill store probably is just, you can go there and you can buy used clothes and whatnot. But there are Goodwill career centers. Not every Goodwill has a career center. They're only located in certain areas. And so when I say this is what your donations go towards, or the money that is earned by the clothing that you donate to them, that they sell, and what they use the money for, they have these things that are Goodwill career centers. And what they are is they have computers, fax machines. You can go in and use it to like apply for a job. Basically use the computer, use the internet to apply for jobs. Or use their copier, their fax machine if you need to make copies of your resume. If you need to even prepare a resume, if you don't even have a resume, they can help you with that. They have job fairs through these career centers. These could be very entry-level jobs, like they might be hiring just to have you work at Goodwill, but there's also other companies that come in and put on these career fairs. So it's a great chance for you to prepare a resume, go and make your copies of your resume, meet with people, and then that could potentially lead to a job. Now I want to talk about something else that Goodwill does. And I only learned about this through when I was living in Arizona, and I went through the state had a program that was like an education program where you could apply for a grant to go through a training program. And this is like a trade. So basically anyone that's interested in maybe like being a dental hygienist or nursing or something like that, you could get a grant through the city. And I don't remember how much the grant was for. It was only for a small portion of, your schooling. So like if you had a school program that's like, I don't know, I'm going to just say like $6,000, and then maybe the grant was only for like $3,000. You would still have to come up with the rest of the money. But the fact that there's that grant out there, it's definitely something you would probably want to look into if you're interested in going to school. Now, Goodwill also has their own grant programs where you go to Goodwill and you tell them that you want to get this grant to apply for a training program. And I'm sure there's all sorts of qualifications you have to go through to apply for it and be approved for it. And certain dollar amounts and certain programs are approved and not approved. So that's something that you'll definitely want to look into, because if it is something where you are wanting to use Goodwill to apply for that grant, to do career training, definitely look into it. I would highly suggest it. It's kind of the whole reason Goodwill is there. So thanks for watching today.